Redditors with thin walls. What have you heard in your apartment?
I moved from far away, so I have a different state license plate than everyone else at the apartment complex. A couple of days ago I had my upstairs neighbor drunkenly ranting to his wife about what he thinks I'm up to. He's convinced that I'm on the run from something. I'm just in grad school, mayo. Okay, but take a second to realize the opportunity you have here. I'd personally play this one out. Give vague answers when asked about your life. When walking to your car, look over both shoulders at least once a week. Fake a phone call while they're home with a vague but suspicious conversation. If you see them in the hallway, ask them if they've seen someone resembling a sketchy character you've made up. You have a chance to be truly mysterious. They'll tell stories of you for years to friends about the neighbor who may have been on the run. My landlord fucking his wife couple of times per week. She screamed like a porn star. They were on the first floor and I was on the second one. Sometimes if I'd walk above their bedroom and they heard it, they'd stop for a couple of seconds and go right back to Boner Town after. Edit. Forgot something. So yeah, we were 3 guys living in the apartment and we'd often invite some girls over, friends, to have dinner and drinks, but we would usually stay up pretty late and it would be in the middle of the week, pretty much once a week. They were the kind of girls who laugh/talk pretty loud, and our landlord asked us if we were having orgies. He wasn't even kidding. Didn't know how to respond to that, so we just laughed it off and kept him wondering. Our neighbors were once talking loud, and I was nosy, so I put my ear up to the wall and realized she was reading him Harry Potter pretty enthusiastically, and it made my heart melt. Did you ask for them to keep reading when they stopped? He left an unobtrusive note on her bathroom mirror asking when she'll read again. Don't worry, next time there's some steam, she'll see it. My dad snoring like a bear, and my mum snoring like a walrus. If they argue, they snore out of sync, and if they have a nice day they snore in sync. It's really quite sweet. I read in a psychology book about sleeping and breathing, and the impact of that in couples. A romantic couple tends to synchronize their breathing. I guess snoring works too. My roommate talking to himself. I sometimes laughed quietly at his jokes. Edit. Since you're asking, they're not really jokes, but just random, silly things he says. Your neighbor tells jokes to himself. Does he laugh at them too? Because I have to figure he already knows the punchline. Sometimes that takes the humor out of a joke. They were more silly things he said than jokes. Pre-dawn hours, blizzard outside, everything's still and quiet. My roommate and I heard our neighbor on the other side of the firewall fart, wet and deep like a stifled baritone sax, and exclaimed to himself in a twisted combination of awe and disgust, "Oh my god." We burst out laughing and hear him chime in with pride. Did you guys hear that? Vindicated that his fart was heard and forever lives in our memories. Well, I hear my neighbors having sex quite often, but a few weeks ago I literally heard a full-on divorce. Maybe you only heard one of your neighbors having sex. Oh boy, my old neighbors were the absolute worst. Their apartment was behind mine, so we shared a bedroom wall. Loud sex as well as full-on fights at 4 AM. I heard the entire breakup. She told him to just leave, and he did. She wasn't expecting that, I guess, and spent the next several hours sobbing and yelling, "Why are you doing this to me?" She also called him about 40 times with no reply. Then got to hear all her rebounds, one of which came over around 2 AM, and couldn't keep it up, which led to her yelling at him. That didn't stop them though. They kept trying for hours, and when we knocked on the wall they fucking knocked back. Bitch, I have a job to get to in 3 hours. God, I hated her. Another time I overheard her almost overdose in the bathroom. The BF called her parents, who called an ambulance. When her BF left, she also stopped taking care of her dog, so she would just take it right outside her front door to shit and never cleaned it up. I don't even know her name, but I know more about her personal life than probably most of her friends do. I've heard and felt the neighbors upstairs having sex, and apparently they like to rearrange the furniture at least twice a week. My upstairs neighbors used to do the furniture moving thing. We both had studio apartments, and it was a huge mystery to me how they could move what sounded like a warehouse full of furniture for an hour in such a tiny place. I live in an apartment with relatively thick walls, and this is what I hear most often from my neighbors. I swear sometimes my upstairs neighbors must be teaching elephants to dance. Heard the couple next door arguing. The wife was furious because she realized he had been cheating on her after she found out she had chlamydia. He tried to convince her that she must have been the unfaithful one. She still lives there. He doesn't. I lived next to a couple some years ago, and they came home after a night out and started fighting about who was better at darts. I thought they were joking, but it got pretty heated. Doors were slammed. I still don't know who thought it was a good idea to combine alcohol and darts. One day my neighbor was spontaneously singing the national anthem, America, and stopped midline and cussed because they messed up the words. So I sang the correct next line, and they burst out laughing before coming back in and finishing the song with me. I've still never met that neighbor. 10/10ths voice. I try to do this if I know the lyrics to a song. Don't really have a great voice though. Upstairs neighbors were a single mom and teenage daughter. They were very loud. The mom's room was above my room. One day I had off and was woken up by sex upstairs. It was pretty common in the previous couple weeks. This time, though, someone came in and started screaming, "You're having sex in my bed?" Turns out the daughter had been skipping school and coming back to the apartment with her boyfriend. They were the ones having sex in the mom's bed. The fight that ensued should earn both women awards. My neighbors had a party at 4 AM. They were playing Gangnam Style and some very bad country music. That's when you should counted with the most extreme death metal you could find, cranked up to full volume. That's what I do. My neighbors a few years ago were Thursday night partiers, usually until about 3 in the morning. I had an 8 AM class on Friday. Woke up an hour and a half beforehand, turned my nice speakers to face our shared, paper-thin wall, and blasted all that remains while I had a cup of coffee and went for a jog. More what my neighbor heard. I'm a deep sleeper and was an even deeper sleeper as a teenager. My phone alarm was going off for 30 minutes and my neighbors could hear it through the walls, assumed it was a burglar alarm, and called the police. Waking up to the police banging on my door was confusing. I lived next to a guy who took care of his disabled girlfriend. She stayed home with a nurse while he worked to support them and pay for her healthcare. Everyone really admired him for it. He used to get drunk and tell her that if she doesn't start putting out he's gonna throw her ass out. Couple upstairs would argue frequently. One particular evening, they had an epic battle. It was hours long. About 2 hours into the argument, 11 PM on a weeknight, we heard the woman shout, "First of all, that was the moment we knew sleeping wouldn't be restful that night. That was the moment we knew sleeping wouldn't be restful that night. Reason number 19 I think you're the worst is how you wash the fucking dinner plates." Lots of fucking. My presumably constipated neighbor trying to poop. Aka 5 minutes of grunting and heavy breathing. Someone snoring like what I can only describe as a diesel truck revving its engine. A little girl practicing playing what I think was a violin every night for a while. Someone blasting Middle Eastern music. I shazamed it, and the song is called Mundian Tabachken. What sounded like a woman forcing herself to puke, with lots of crying. IDK if she had food poisoning, or was bulimic, or what. Not quite what I've heard, but more once I realized my previous apartment had very thin walls my roommate and I would just yell at each other from our respective rooms if we needed something. It was great. No one had to leave bed. Hey Peter, man. Check out channel 9. A case of the Mondays? Hell no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked for that. My university accommodation had paper thin walls. You could hear people having sex 5 doors down, and I could hear my friends' music from even further away. Yeah, my college dorms were the same. My roommate asked from her room how to spell something, and our neighbor called to tell her how to spell it. It was hilarious to us. Jinna, I love you. Jinna no. Jinna, damn it, put the knife down. At this point, both the apartments adjoining to Jinna's called the police. Jinna's husband decided to spend the night elsewhere. Can you elaborate on the story? I'm curious. You're only with me for the crack. My next door neighbors. Yes. Yes I am. Calm down Dr. Poo Poo Head, you are acting very unprofessional. Neighbor worked at it and hired a new sitter. New sitter invited 2 guys over. Kids were only 3 and one heard her say, if we leave to go to the corner store now, the kids will be fine alone for 20 minutes. And heard them talking about popping some of mom's Xanax and selling them. Then they promptly left. I walked out, knocked on the door, and the 3-year-old boy came out. I called the police, went into the apartment, found mom's work number next to the sink, and she was furious. Left work and came back home, and as she was walking up to thank me and the officers, the babysitter and guys came into the complex. Mind you, this was all within an hour, not 20 minutes lol. Mom whooped babysitter, then called babysitter's mom, and she got another whooping. Got offered a sitting job after that and took it. Lol. Also have heard one of my neighbors talking in tongues and yodeling. Glad I don't live in apartment anymore. Someone sneezed. We said bless you. They laughed. Damn it Lawrence, can't you just pretend like we can't hear each other through the wall? My upstairs neighbors taking turns zapping each other with a stun gun, hitting the floor, groaning in pain, and then laughing like Beavis and Butthead. This is a special breed of dumb. I like to think I'm smart, but I totally do that. Yesterday when I was taking a shit, my neighbor was blasting classical music on full volume. It was the most majestic and relaxing shit I've taken in a long time. I could hear my neighbor fart, and when her phone went off on vibrate, it was like having roommates I couldn't see. Oh, I thought they were connected. Every time her phone went off, she farted. I've heard my neighbor giving his granddaughter a xylophone for birthday, I guess. She could play it well and kept playing for a while. Immediately after she left, I could hear him trying to play something his granddaughter played. He practiced for a solid hour until he managed to play this song correctly and stopped with a joyful yes. It was one of the purest things I've ever experienced. What a wholesome break from bad music and people banging. My ex-neighbors never let their kids leave the house and preferred to raise bubble children. The older son, 12 or 13, was pitifully fragile. One day I heard him crying because he shit on his own hands. He shit on his own hands. Wait, what? Okay guys, don't forget to hit that sub button, also ring that shiny bell, like and share too, and check out other videos in our channel.